linguistic adventurer, and you're listening to Curious Introverts' Journeys into English and Beyond, the podcast where people like us find our voice and connect through meaningful conversations. Each episode brings inspiring stories from guests who turn their quiet nature into a superpower while mastering English. No small talk here, just deep, authentic chats to help you improve your English and embrace who you are. In today's episode, I'm joined by Claire, a passionate English teacher who helps kids fall in love with English and who's all about making learning fun through stories. She's a fellow book lover and introvert, originally from America. Claire's journey has taken her from studying Spanish in Madrid to now living in Italy, where she grows her own vegetables and dreams of writing a book about her dog Alex. We dive into how she used her introvert superpowers to master both Spanish and Italian, and whether she thinks she has a different personality in each language. Let's find out. Hello again.
Morning again.
Again, because I feel it's like a weekly thing now, like a weekly catch-up of introverts.
You just have, the introvert chat online, always online.
What did we do? We didn't press record, but I guess we're going to have a bit of a deja vu now.
There's always more stories to be told.
So we were talking, you're from America and you teach English.
Yes.
You're a techno fan.
Yes.
You fight, you have Alex the dog. Anything else that I didn't?
Any more surprises that you don't know? I grew up in the States, moved to Spain when I was 18, never went home, started teaching English, married an Italian, have a dog, do Muay Thai. This is
We were talking about your Spanish when it started, because you said you moved to Spain. But then I was wondering when you were, because you obviously probably started Spanish at school.
So I think I started Spanish, it must have been high school. If we did anything in middle school, I don't remember it in the sense.
Okay.
The thing is, in the United States, languages are not important because in the United States, they think they are the only country in the world and that everybody should speak English. So, so yes, I don't think that I did anything in middle school. If I did, I don't remember. In high school, we had lessons, but they were literally a joke. Like, I learned absolutely nothing. I learned like basic written forms of things, but I remember like memorizing my presentations and having no idea what I was saying. I didn't learn.
Spanish.
Yeah, and also it was like Latin American Spanish, which has nothing to do with Spain Spanish.
Yes. So it was a bit similar. I mean, for us in Poland, many places still when we learn the foreign languages, just like the grammar, the words, which I understand, because if you start from zero, you kind of have to work up your base, but then it's like zero speaking. So I guess it was similar for you in Spanish.
Yeah, like zero thing. And my teachers, I know they spoke Spanish, but they didn't ever like even use it in our lessons at all. They didn't, like, here at least, and in Italy, in the English lessons that they have, or in their Spanish lessons or German lessons or French lessons, the teachers actually use the language, at least some of them too. More so, but in the sense for us, like I don't remember. Like, I remember them speaking Spanish like between each other, but they weren't even Spanish. And so one was Greek and one was American who had lived in Colombia and did all kinds of crazy things in Colombia because I think she was like insane.
Really?
She's a very strange woman. So yeah, I didn't learn anything at all.
So you were kind of, in a way, I guess, forced. I mean, I started Russian in year 4, but in a village school, because I think it was still past the communism, times. Like when my mom, she was learning Russian and she had to even do the pen paling with some kids from, I don't know, Czech or Slovakia in Russian, because, it was the regime. So they had to do those things. So we still, like kids of the 90s, especially the small places, Russian was like a, first language. I said in year 4, I started Russian and then English, I think when I was only 13, like the middle school.
Oh, wow. So it later, like after.
Yeah. Obviously now it changes, but kids of the 90s, like we had, I remember though, we had the cool kids, the rich kids. It was literally maybe 5 or 6 of them from the whole school. They had private English class, but I just remember this picture of this. I didn't even know if she was actually a teacher or just somebody who did English as a hobby. But I just remember this picture that she would always come with this like huge bag, and then I think she bring in like dictionaries or something, and I was like, what's this?
Yeah, in the sense like the old school way of learning.
So it's similar. But actually when I started in middle school, we had the teacher. He was Polish, but he came from some like bigger city, and he was talking to us all the time in English. We were all shocked.
Yeah, because that's how it should be, but in the sense,
Now,
not the
from the
case.
time perspective, I'm like, that was so cool. It was stressful.
Yeah,
But
the
he was
time is
also,
stressful, but then for your ear and learning, it's much better
yeah,
at
that's
the
the
end of the
best
day.
that could be. So for you, Spanish the same, but then you were saying you got the letter and you set off to
So yeah, in
Spain.
the sense I didn't have a plan, don't have a plan for my life, but in
Yeah,
the sense,
exactly.
in the sense, I don't know, because I had an interest in Spanish when I lived in Texas because I was working and riding horses at a
Oh,
barn.
wow.
And so the people working there were Mexican. And so they didn't speak any English, obviously. So I must have been 12, 13. This is before high school. And so
Yeah.
then with them, I was like the poor girl who worked at the barn while the other like rich girls didn't even interact with these people. And so, and so I tried, like, in the sense, just to say, like, thank you, hello, how are you? Like, I learned like 3 phrases that they taught me. And that I think is where my interest, my interest was sparked for like, oh, there are other languages in the world. Like, it's not just English in the United States. And so then,
Yeah.
yeah, when I went to high school, then, okay, I was in some way in my head though, I was like, I want to go to Spain. I didn't know why. I was just like, Spain. I didn't know anything about Spain. I really have no idea what happened to make me like think I
But
wanted to go
something
to
in your head
Spain
was,
in the sense, yeah, just for like a year, like a study abroad year, because that's a thing in the sense. And so I started studying Spanish at school. Okay, learn nothing, but in any case, I was studying Spanish. And then yes, I got this letter in the mail from university that had it was American University, but the campus in Madrid. And so, and they were offering scholarships, I think, just to get students. And I was like, all right, I'll apply. Why not? And that was that essentially. I was going to go for just the year and then go back and finish university at a normal American university, and I didn't.
So your program when you were going, was it just like a 1 year kind of student exchange? Because like when I went on student exchange, you probably heard of the Erasmus from
Yeah,
the
yeah.
European
It's
Union.
not exactly
Yes.
the same, but
Okay, because we were going like for initially for 6 months.
yeah, it was kind
It
of in the
was
sense
so
I
for
think.
you, it was the whole program, the actual whole studies
So I think
when you were
no,
going?
yeah, what the idea was that you could go for or 6 months or 1 year to start, and then I could have come back and used my credits to go to another university, like if I wanted to like transfer them to go to a different
Yes.
university or stay at that university because it wasn't where I lived, it was in a different state. Or then, and since you had the option to then just stay in Spain and complete your studies in Spain. And so it wasn't exactly like an exchange program. It was more literally they have the university campus there. And then after the first year, you could decide, or second year or third year, in the sense it was very flexible. People used to come like after their third year just to do their 6 months of, if they were studying Spanish in the States, they would do just 6 months there. And so it was kind of like there was like a constant flux of people that were like, we were like the permanent students who were like the cool students. And then all this like exchange students that just came for like 6 months. We used to make fun of them because they couldn't learn the accent. Like this was after I had been in Spain for like 3 or 4 years. And so I remember like I had a Spanish teacher at university who was so horrible. Not to me, because in the sense he loved you if you could speak Spanish with a good accent. If you couldn't, he was like make fun of you in class. And so it was like me and like the friends who were the permanent students, like the cool students. And then he would just, when we were reading, he would make us read out loud, and he would just like he would make so much fun of the poor exchange students who were there just for the 6 months. And I was just like, now as a teacher, I'm like, that's so horrible. But at the time, it was like, I'm cool.
I'm in the cool group, right?
Exactly. Like I'm in the cool group. I'm accepted by the Spanish teacher.
And what made you stay? Did you plan to stay or
I don't even remember. I probably just after the first year was like, why would I ever go back to the United States? Why would I go back ever? Exactly. And so then I told my parents, I was like, so can I just stay? And they were like, yeah, if you pay your rent. Because the first year it was like I was in like university housing. And so it was like get included in my university like bills. Then after that, they were like, okay, like we can continue paying university, obviously, but you have to find a way to pay your rent. And so I started teaching in the sense I started, obviously it was in the sense I didn't pay it all the first year because just side teaching, like a side teaching job, it's not going to pay rent. But rent was also cheaper back then.
Yeah, those were the days.
Exactly, those were the days, and you could find a room for like 200 euros. So yeah, that was kind of, I don't really remember the mental process that I went through. I was just like, I can't imagine going back to the States after having lived in Europe. Like, why would I do that?
It was like a big adventure, I guess.
Yeah.
Because for me, I remember when I came like first time after secondary school, I came for I think 3 or 4 months, basically summer and money before I go start university in October in Poland. So my first time, then I came back and I was like, what do I do to come back to England? Like,
Yeah, you just
always
kind of like that idea, like I can't, I guess, I don't know. Some people are very much, yeah, I would go and then come back to my home. But for me, it's like, no, don't ever want, that's not my home. Maybe we also moved around a lot when I was a kid. We moved states, moved schools, moved everything. And so that probably
Yes, you were saying that your dad
influenced.
is English, right?
My
So
dad's English. So yes, I grew up knowing that there was a world outside of the United States,
yeah.
thankfully. And we moved around. We always changed states. So that meant change school, change friends, change everything as kids, like every 4 years. So that probably influenced my like adult need to like change
to like go and
places,
explore the world.
go and explore, move around, or not stay in the same place forever. So now I'm thankful for it. I was not a happy child, especially as a shy child. I was not happy to change my friends. Right?
I wanted to ask you when was, because we were talking like when was there a time when you were realizing, the first time that you're like, oh, I'm the introvert?
Definitely an adult in the sense. As a kid, I was just like the shy kid. The shy kid who then, in the sense, I always became popular, if you will. It was not like popular, but in the sense I became like friends with the cool kids. Or I was one of those people who could just like be in any group. So I was like happy to be with my really group of friends. I could go with the sports kids because I did sports. I could go with, I was pretty much like, but I was always very shy. Yes, it was very difficult for me to like at first. And so, yeah, I was always just shy. I just figured I was shy. That was like, what they branded us as, shy kids.
Yes, but did you get any branding from people? Because I got even from my family teachers. So I had it a lot. Did you? Or
maybe when I don't know, if I don't remember as a young kid, if teachers, maybe they told me that I was always kind of like the bad kid in the back of class as well, in the sense. So I was not participating because I was drawing in my notebook with my friends and like making notes.
So you were a little bit like the shy, quiet,
rebellious child in the back of the classroom. Always paying attention, and since I always got good grades, but I was not
multitasking.
Yes, multitasking. But I think I realized maybe that actually like, being an introvert is a thing as an adult. And I realized as an adult that I'm not per se shy. I just don't do well in big groups, and I don't really enjoy talking about nothing to people that I don't care about. But I think that definitely progressed in the sense I realized that much later. At first I was just like, oh, I'm shy, I don't know. And then like going to Spain, it was the same. I was not only shy, but in a language that I didn't speak. I was surrounded by people that I was just like, I think I was just like silent for my first year in Spain at parties and with friends. Most of my friends were bilingual because a lot of the Spanish kids were bilingual, of course. And so that was probably a problem at first as well, because I didn't force myself so much to speak.
Because you kind of a bit maybe excluded yourself, or maybe you had a little bit like a crutch of English that you can always.
Yeah, I had that crutch, and it's because at university, like university was a bilingual university, but everybody spoke English as well. So I didn't have I had to speak Spanish on the street, obviously in life, but it wasn't like having conversations with people. And I do remember one of my very good friends who he of course was bilingual because he went to the American school from when he was 3. So his English was like better than his Spanish essentially, but he was Spanish. I remember he told me my first year, he was like, if you want to learn Spanish, don't hang out with the Americans. He was like, please don't. And I was like, you're crazy. I didn't listen to him. I mean, of course, and since I mingled with the Spaniards, but I was always with people who I knew could also speak English. And so that probably hindered a little bit. I'd learned quickly in any case because I was there, but it hindered a little bit me like forcing myself to actually speak Spanish.
Yes.
And now I say that I'm like, yes, don't hang out with the Americans if you want to learn the language. That in the sense, obviously you're not going to learn if you're hanging out with the people that speak your own language. And so I will never forget that little bit of advice that he gave that I didn't really follow, but then I did later on.
Yeah, you realize you learn your lesson. You're like, yeah, I know it's helping. But you said you also speak Italian. So were you the same with Italian, like your introversion, or with Italian you just went straight in like, yes, I'm speaking Italian, like I don't care about.
So I guess with Spanish, I was very much I think I tried to be perfect with Spanish because I didn't want to sound like the dumb like I had this like vision in my head of like I can't sound like a dumb American. I don't want people to be like, oh, she's American, she can't, because there's like the stereotype that like Americans can't learn languages and can't
They
get
don't
the
know anything
accent
about
and they're ignorant about the world. And so I was like, so my whole goal in life was to like become Spanish. I didn't want anyone to know that I was American. So that implied obviously like I did everything in Spanish. There was times when I didn't speak English, especially after university, for like weeks on end. I didn't speak English. I just like, or maybe yes, but even with my bilingual friends, we spoke in Spanish. And so with Spanish, I think it was a much more of an obsession. Like it was like my passage into being a successful human was that I could learn a language.
Actually, I wanted to ask you because now I was talking with the other guests and we were talking about whether like, you know, for us it was English because like me and him were talking about English, we're learning like for you, that it was kind of a bit like an escape in a way from life, or maybe your introversion or being a bit lonely, or maybe things going in your house or just around you. So it was kind of a bit like you go into the language and you just it's like a game or something. I don't know, like different
kind of is. It's like a video game, like you level up every time. Like as soon as you like when you understand a song that you like didn't understand, you're like next level, like get a star. Like literally, I think it is. And as I must recognize that I am kind of a perfectionist and very hard on myself and want to do everything perfectly. And so that probably all was like influenced in my Spanish. With Italian, wasn't so much the obsession. I was older, one, in the sense I must have been 20, I was 26 or 27 when I moved to Italy. So my need to be perfect in Italian was not so, in the sense, yes, I didn't want to sound like an idiot, but the good thing was that people here thought that I was Spanish. And that was fine with me.
So you accomplished your mission.
Exactly, right. Because I spoke Italian and I still probably not, maybe no, now it's the opposite. I speak Spanish with an Italian accent, but I spoke Italian with a Spanish accent. And so people they didn't jump to say, oh, you're just the dumb, ignorant American. That was in my head, obviously. They thought that I was Spanish. And so that was fine with me. And so I wasn't so worried about becoming perfect and like hiding my identity because I was already like hidden in my Spanish identity. And so it was totally fine. And I also, in this, I needed to work. I needed to like do life and live life. And I didn't have, I was already working and studying as well. And so I didn't have time to spend so much time on perfecting my Italian. And so my Italian is fine, but it's
more like the practical, not the perfection. It's like I can use it, I can do things in Italy.
I can do everything. It's more difficult than Spanish in the sense the grammar is like it's just insane. Like the Italians they will do anything to make everything more complicated in all areas and aspects of life. Like everything is impossible here, including their language.
And I thought about like Italians, sweet life, like it's easy, it's peaceful, but not the language. It's
for tourists maybe, but for living here and for speaking the language, it's another level of crazy. And so I think I had a different, and I didn't feel so shy in the sense that my introversion is but I didn't feel so shy or so embarrassed to like try and speak Italian when I got here. Whereas in Spain, I was like, if it doesn't sound perfect, I'm not saying it, kind of thing. Whereas he was like, no, I need to speak. And so whatever, I'll just speak a mix of Italian and Spanish and it's fine.
I guess maybe comes with the experience and maybe also with age, that the older we get, we're a bit like, I don't care. It doesn't have to be. Of course, I know the perfectionism is always the problem, but I guess maybe we do less of it.
Yeah, so because you
having different experiences.
I feel like time, there's only so much time. I learned quickly, and I did at first, like I did a quick course just to get the basics, and I literally only watched things in Netflix in Italian. Like I did kind of like immerse myself in it and try to speak Italian. My colleagues at work who spoke both, I would speak to them in Italian if they were Italians. And so I think I did the things that I didn't do at first in Spanish because I knew that's how you learn faster in the sense by this point.
Mixed with Italians.
Exactly. I mixed with the Italians instead of not what I did in Spain of not mixing so much with the Spaniards. So I think also that's experience as well. And since once learned one language, then you kind of know what works better.
Yeah, you tested something, or this will take me maybe longer. This is like a quicker path to learn something and use it. No. Exactly. So do you think being introverted, quiet or shy, whatever we want to call it, do you think that this actually is a kind of, I don't know, superpower for languages or in life? Some strengths that it could give you, or like
change you maybe a bit, boost your confidence? What's your experience?
I mean, I think, yeah, because I think we listen more in the sense I am totally fine just listening and not actually, in the sense, especially in like a big group. I'll much rather just listen and not actually try to get my word in because it's usually just too
Not to be like the center of attention.
and
Yeah.
so I feel like, and since as a kid, I was literally always reading. Like I did nothing but read in English, of course, but I was always reading, always listening to music in the sense I was always kind of like in my own little world of quiet. And so then I think that probably, and then in Spanish, it was the same. Since in Spanish, I took that love of reading and then tried to read in Spanish and I got obsessed with Spanish music. So I feel like doing those kinds of activities that are more like quiet activities.
Or a bit like maybe in a way almost maybe a bit like passive. I mean, because you're not speaking, you kind of
yeah, you're just
in a sense. I mean, you're still thinking, but yeah, you don't think what to say. You're just like
exactly, you're just absorbing. And so I think yeah, definitely that probably helped a lot. And same in Italian in the sense I just like binge Netflix series in Italian.
Yes.
So I think yeah, listening skills definitely help, I think, with learning languages. And I think that's something that us introverts maybe have more. To give you an example, because in this it kind of sounds funny, but like I have some adult students I have two people in mind. One is Italian, one is Spanish. They are both like the kind of people who can literally like sell you something you already have. They're so good at talking. Like those people that can just talk. They're friends with everybody, like friends with everybody. You know what I mean? Like
yes,
friends
out there and like,
but they know everybody. Like they have someone who can help you and give you a favor with everything. And they, in the sense, in English, they could speak it because they weren't afraid to just like speak. Then they would make so many like silly mistakes. And even when I would correct them, they were already saying the next thing. And so they weren't even paying attention to my correction, as if they're like, I don't even care. I'm just going to speak in the sense. And so I feel like that they're definite like super extroverts. That extroverted personality, I feel like almost maybe hindered them learning better because they were spending less time listening and more time thinking about what they wanted to say next and talking and like going like 5 million miles a minute in their head
and kind of like a bit fill up the space maybe in a sense.
Maybe I guess in the sense that, and also just like they are totally fine talking all the time and not having to listen. Like there was lessons with the Spanish guy, and so he could literally just like talk for the entire hour, and I would just like say one thing every X amount of time, and I was like, this is not even a lesson because you're just talking.
I'm just listening to you.
I'm just listening to you. And I was like, more like I'm being your psychologist rather than like anything else in the sense. But that definitely, I feel like, I guess it depends how much time you want to dedicate to studying. But I feel like, yeah, as an introvert, we're already prone to listening more and to paying more attention to small details and this kind
more
of thing.
Observant.
And so I think that, yeah, with languages definitely helps because let's face it.
I think it's like this whole image that you have to talk the language, speak the language like all the time out there, but maybe you don't have to be all the time. And I feel like when I was a kid and I started learning English when I was, officially at school when I was 13, but I think I started by myself when I was, I don't know, maybe 7 or 8. Because my cousin actually from America was coming for summer holiday to practice her Polish because the mom is Polish, but she moved out, I don't know, in the 50s or 60s. Like there was the big influx of Polish people emigrating because of the political.
Probably my grandma, because my mom's half Polish, and so yeah, so probably same story.
So it's like, the same, yes.
Same thing.
Yeah, so they would come. So they would speak in Polish, I think obviously in the house, and she was doing all those scouts, like the Polish ones in America even. But then she would be coming for the summer to see her grandma. And then she would hang out with me and my brother and my sisters. And sometimes she was like, we are playing. She was the teacher and she was teaching us some colors in English or to say hello. And I was, this. I'm like, I don't know, 6, 7, and there's some English.
Yeah, it was introduced to you though in a way that was so playful and so natural.
Yes.
How it should be.
Yeah, which was, and for a kid that age, you are like, it's like from a small village in Poland. I don't remember like how, but then I just get, as you said, I like reading as well. And I was reading in Polish every day coming from school, book glued. And my mom is like, dinner ready. I was like, I need to finish the page of the book.
Finish the chapter, right? Wait, page, chapter, sorry, the whole book.
I don't remember exactly the moment, but I remember her coming and trying to teach us some English. I was like, that's cool. huh. And then I say, I don't remember, but I just remember that I was full on English, like everything, books, I don't know, magazines, grammar books, like even get the boring ones. I'm like, I'm going to. So now when somebody tells me grammar, I'm like, yeah, it's okay. Then I would even in at university when we had like a descriptive grammar or contrastive grammar, and we were doing all the tenses in English that we have to learn all the details. And I remember the professor would be always asking me, okay, so what do you use in this sentence? And I'm like, this one. But why do you use it now? Which is like, because it just
I don't
sounds
know, it just sounds
okay.
right. Yeah, that's
When I
learned
hear
with your
myself
ear.
reading it,
Yeah.
it's just like, it fits. But I was like, but why? It's okay. But why did you use it? Give me, because it was the adverb here or this or the habit. I'm like, it just fits.
It just sounds right. And that's
Yeah, because I guess all the books I just read it and then you probably visually remember or what you listened and
yeah, and
it's
this is
like
what you in
natural.
the sense because it happens to me even now. Like I might say a word, especially in Italian. My husband's like, "Where did you learn that word?" I'm like, "I don't know. I don't really even know what it means, but I know it goes right in the sense I know it's the right word for this situation." And
Yes,
that comes from listening and reading
yes,
because
definitely, because it gives you the memory. I don't know if it was for you with Spanish, but I remember even we had this like a magazine for teenage kids, and there was a section with lyrics in every issue. So I remember some of us kids we were like cutting out those pages, and we get like a notepad, and we like glued it because it was like the lyrics and then translation into Polish, and we're like, that's so cool.
yeah, no,
So
but
I think
music is fantastic.
so there was a few of us kids at school, not everybody was like few of us were maybe, I don't know, are they into music or maybe like me for English? Because I mean, I like music, but as friends would joke, you have the voice of an angel, but like my ears are bleeding when you start singing.
Yeah, I'm just
I can sing, but when the music is very loud. So I remember even listening to those, like listening to songs at the time on the radio on the old school Walkman or the CD player. I don't know if you remember those.
yep, I had one. Had
They're
one.
like breaks.
Yeah, like the circle disc thing that you're just like
Mhm.
carried around with you. Yep.
So I remember we were doing this, you probably listen to it, and then you just naturally learn the words. And of course, we had to sit like with the dictionary because we didn't have Google Translate at that ancient time of the 90s.
And I,
But yeah, definitely the listening. It can, but even the reading, because it expands your vocabulary, I
yeah, I
guess,
think
even
you
if you don't
see
use it.
words the way that things are written. Like maybe it's not how you would say it because it's more like literature language.
Yes.
Yeah, I think vocabulary so much. And also, I'm not the kind of person that I don't read. I hate reading and like having to look up words. At the same time, if I see a word repeated, like if it's just one, then I'm like, whatever, I get the
Yes.
context. But if I see it like constantly repeated, I'm like, okay, what is this word? I need to know what this
It's
is because
like
I
annoying me.
can't figure it out from the context. Or like I know more or less, but I'm not sure. So let me go find it. And then I feel like that's when and then you like see that word everywhere. Like once you've learned it, and then like all of a sudden you see it and hear it everywhere. But yeah, you don't
Mhm.
get that if you're not taking the time to do something in the sense. And so yeah, I think if you don't like that quiet time to yourself, then you're gonna have to do something else to practice the language in that
Yeah.
sense, I guess. And yes, there's ways for everybody. But yes, I really think that is a gift that we have because we don't have to force
Yes.
ourselves to read or to listen to music or to even write in some
Yeah, so did
force
you use a
ourselves.
lot of writing? I'm also visual. So for me was I'm not talking about writing the essays and stuff, but more like even I remember the time even like reading a book, I could check some words and literally write them in a notepad or color or something to make me remember those words, even though I'm not using them because I had nobody to speak English with.
You just had like
So
your
I was like,
pictures and
what?
words. Which
Yes, I
then
just
it
read the
sticks
book.
in your mind, especially if you do it as a kid. Like it sticks in your mind. Yeah, I liked in the sense I would at school I would make like little pictures of what the word was because I was bored and like had to draw big visual. I forgot.
With the writing,
Lessons and
listening, reading, we do that a lot when we do things by ourselves, kind of the alone time. So for me, writing was also, I think I also like to do manually things. So like writing was in itself, I write, I can color, but then I also move my hands.
yeah, you're doing something. I think especially in the sense I didn't like writing in English. I still don't really. But in Spanish, yes. Because it was
Yes.
like more creative and I was like, oh, this is another way to practice. This is another way to like and so that I think also helped a whole lot in sense being I liked reading, I liked music, I wanted to learn and then writing obviously Spanish literature is full of all kinds of like brilliant examples, and I studied that at school, and so that was like my favorite thing ever. And so then I started writing too, and I think that really, if you read like
Yes.
all of like my short stories where like I was going through like a crisis in life, I don't know, you know, like when you're like boys and like stupid stuff like that. And so like I think I still have some of the short stories that I wrote in Spanish, which they're not even bad, but like it's like I don't think I could sit down and like be that creative writing anymore because I'm not in that emotional crisis state, at least not
Yes.
not like in the sense. I feel like a lot of that came out because maybe it was my way of getting it out because I wouldn't really like
kind of like journaling in a way, right?
Yeah, in the sense kind of like journaling, but turning into stories and like very cryptic as well. Like if you read it, you would have no idea that I was talking about a boy since it was very creative. But in my head, I get maybe in the sense because I didn't really like, I don't know, I probably talked about these things with my like closest friends, but it wasn't like, definitely wasn't a thing. I wasn't just like talking to people like, oh yeah, that dumb boy. More of like kept it to myself kind of thing. And so I think
but also in a way it's good because a little bit like your secret. Let's imagine if you're writing your journal and then in English or in Polish, then somebody like your sister, brother, or your mom picks it up, really it's like, oh my God. But if you write it in Spanish,
it's your secret. If it's secret, keep it safe kind of thing.
Nobody will know. Otherwise, they'll have to pick up the dictionary and start, checking the word.
Yeah, no one has that much time on their hands, right?
Yeah, so that's quite handy. Even if you are writing about some crush and then he picks it up, he doesn't even know. Like maybe he just sees his name, but like
or not even because
I don't know what she's writing about me.
Secretism. Yes, so this is
definitely.
That's not even now. I don't talk to people about my emotion in the sense like yes, but it's still definitely very much like a keep it secret, keep it safe kind of thing, and probably
yes, I tend to do this. Like for me, it's still. I mean, I think I'm more comfortable now because I guess as a kid, you also want to fit in, be accepted. Because I was very shy and I wasn't like you, like the popular kid, always with a group of friends. I had a few friends, but I was more quiet. If I have to, I will speak, but I won't be coming like, hey, I'm Justina, I'm this and that. Like,
yeah, and it's not the outgoing one at parties. Yeah.
Yes, I think now with the I said like I'm more like that's just the way I am, and I'm like okay. Sometimes it feels uncomfortable because, or maybe it's just your inner child that people looking at you weirdly, but maybe they don't even care. But definitely when I'm with big groups, I will still go like one or two people that I click or have something in common.
Like search for the people that you know.
Yeah, down the room. It's like who is safe?
No, definitely. Like now, I think more in the sense like university was kind of like okay, I was shy and then like got into like then I think I became more confident with myself once I could speak Spanish because I was like, oh, I can do something that not everybody can do, and I was like, and I can do it well, right? In the sense, so that was like a confidence boost for me in the sense and I guess university is the time when you like make your best friends and you're all the time. It was very much like when I got here in Italy, at first I was still like on that kind of like, yeah, I'll make friends, like go out with people, but it became less and less like I didn't want to make new best friends when I got here. It's like I already have my best friends.
So you weren't desperate to have new friends, like otherwise.
Yeah, and then some people are like that. Some people are like have to make friends like all the time with everybody. But I was like, I wasn't, and I was like, yeah, I have colleagues and I meet people and we can go out. But it was definitely like less important for me. And then now, I think I don't know if it was COVID or if it's just age or working so much that you're just tired and I don't know, or like needing. I think I realized that I actually like needed that time to be alone, and so now I'm back in the stage where like people are like, Claire, let's hang out, and I'm like, do we have to? Like,
I don't think I got your message.
Is on Friday night, let's go out after the gym. And I feel bad that I'm like, but then they're gonna think I'm like a mean person, like I don't want to go out, and so like I have to like, it's now I feel like I have more difficulty with it now than I did as a kid because I didn't realize. I feel like as a kid you're just shy and you're like whatever, you're shy unless you're with your good friends, and then now it's like I'm not shy. I have no problem talking to people anymore. Do for a living, and I talk to people.
Yes,
but they're little people, and so it's better at being to adults. But the whole like it's not so much, it's not that I'm shy. I'll talk to you when we're in the places that I have to talk to you, but I don't want to like add things to my schedule to make me talk more.
Yes.
And so I have to find some people, like some people get it and they're like, don't worry, I know you don't want to like come down from your mountain whenever you want. Like, and then there's
from
other
your
people,
oasis.
yes, exactly. And then there's other people who are like, let's hang out. And I'm like, no. And how many times can I say no before they think I'm a horrible person?
Yes. Or start making excuses or something.
It's like, cause in the day, it's okay, I have to work or like whatever. And then I can be like at this period, like this month, I've literally told everyone I know, I'm like, this month I'm pretty like I've got too many things to deal with work-wise, and so I'm not going to be very present. But I can't do that all year long.
Yes.
I'd love to be like, sorry, it's like every month have a theme. Like this month I can't because in the sense
Of something.
in the
So
sense,
it's more like but do you think like people will judge you for it, or is it more like your
don't really care.
self-talk that yeah.
So it's like maybe as a kid I tried to be more
Mhm.
like as a shy child or shy teen, you tried to be more out and you like work on that. And now I'm like you said, I don't need that in the sense I
Kind of in a
need
sense validation or something
yeah, it's
because
like I
you have
need
your
my
friends.
I know who my real friends are and I know who people in the sense, yeah, I can make new friends, but at the same time, like those people will understand when I don't want to come out, even if I like have the time to come out.
Yes.
I feel
So
like
it's definitely,
even
I guess, easier. You don't feel that pressure that I have to have my friends. You have your friends and then you can decide, do I want to come out or do I just want to chill and okay with it? Like,
yeah, and I've gotten better at like gently being like, hey, sorry, I'm not going to be able to do anything this evening. Because maybe someone will be like in person, hey, do you want to, organize, do you want to go out on Friday, like after whatever? And this is like on a Wednesday. And I'll be like, yeah, maybe. And then I think about it for like a day or 2 days and I'm like, no, I really can't. And so then I'll write a message, be like, hey, I'm really sorry. I'm just really swamped with work right now. I need to take a chill pill and like just rest. And so I'm getting better at trying to tell people like in a nice way, like I just my time in the sense. And I feel like
definitely.
in a different language, that is also more complicated because one, you're a foreigner. Two, you're using a different language. So you have to make sure you're choosing the right words to do that. And so I feel like it's an extra test on top of your introversion. You are trying to make sure that you're saying the right thing in the language, not like obviously
That
like
made sound like
not
come across as
like
you want.
offending and so not like using like, but I guess that just maybe I wouldn't maybe you have to find the right words because even in English maybe it's not easy to find the right words that you want to say, at least for me. And so in a second or third language, it's like, okay, what are the words that actually sound fine and don't sound stupid to like
Yes.
explain this state of like emotion or like need that
I'm laughing because when you said, oh, what can I say? And I've seen this video of the comedian and he was joking about introverts, but he was basically kind of presenting the little video like his inner child. Okay, there's somebody coming. What do I say? Oh, I'm busy. Then it's like, I'll chat with them a little bit and talking. And it's okay. Now I use the word anyways, and that means I don't want to talk. I don't want to make any plans. So he's pretending, oh, then somebody comes and he's like, yeah, I'm busy. Anyways, okay, that's my exit plan. I go.
Exactly. I just like you need like those 3 keywords like sorry, I'm busy. Anyways, gotta go.
Yeah. Like it.
Exactly. Yeah, I guess at first, maybe even as an introvert in a second language, at first that's much more difficult and that creates much more like or maybe not because maybe you're like excited about the new language and so you're more like I said for me in Spanish, it was like I was maybe after the first year I was like I'm happier to go out and speak in Spanish because I can and I'm practicing. Whereas then now that I'm like I can speak Italian and what if I go out or not, it doesn't change my speaking. So maybe that as well. I don't know. I guess it depends on the person. But at first it could be more difficult to go out, or at first maybe it's not because you're like, but I'm practicing the language. And so you're like compensating for
kind of, give yourself the reason.
Yeah, you're like,
I'm doing this
I
because
have
I
a
can
good
speak
reason to go out, and so I'm more inclined to go out. Whereas maybe once you've learned the language in a way that you're happy enough with your level, then you don't feel that like there's no more like importance of like this sounds really bad, but there is no more practical reason to actually go.
So do you think when you're in Spanish or in Italian, it changes your personality a little bit, or maybe a lot, or maybe completely different in a different language? Because I don't know, for me, I find like with English, that was my obsession. And I was always like, as you with Spanish, whatever I can get on cartoons, books, grammar book, like everything, songs, I would just go for it. So I felt like in Polish, I was shy. But then when I was like, as you maybe what you said, when you feel like you have to do things, because when I came first to England, I was like, also maybe the thinking, okay, this is my chance. I came abroad. Maybe I won't have it again. So it's like, you better go at it. And I was obviously shy, scared, and thinking, oh my gosh, whatever I say, probably I don't have the English accent, the British one, or I say silly things. My grammar is not okay. But from the other side, I was like, you need to do it. Otherwise,
Yeah, we like.
Where do you practice? I had nobody to practice English. I need to do it. So I push myself, and I feel like for me in English was like I can be like switch. And now even after my friends that I met here from different countries, and sometimes after we know each other for 10 years or more, and I say, oh yeah, I'm actually quite shy, or this situation will stress me because many people are like, what? No,
That
I would never say you are shy. And they know me, like you say, for many years. I was like, yeah, I actually am, but I think I kind of build it up and be like, or maybe use my extroverted side at some more sometimes more. I
Your
don't know.
identity, your extrovert
Yes,
identity
exactly.
in
Because I feel like,
English.
oh, in English, it's funny because I remember at some point, I think I don't know, it was like 9 months in or 8, something like coming up to 1 year. We're talking with my friend from Estonia. We're like, oh yeah, so there's this thing that you can dream in another language or like in English. And that's the thing. Oh, your brain is switching.
The moment.
And we're like, I feel I don't know, a month after we are talking about this with her. And then I was like, oh my God, I had my first dream in English and it's so cool. I'm not thinking in Polish anymore.
I remember that in Spanish too. Oh my
Yes.
God, like I actually do understand and speak Spanish if I'm dreaming in it, right?
Yeah, and sometimes I have like dreams, not even in Polish, but I said in English, then I throw some Russian in there, some Bulgarian. I'm like, what's going on? So I feel like, yeah, it kind of changed me a bit, or maybe I found this is like the way for me to maybe, I don't know if it's changing personality or maybe just digging out that thing.
Adapting maybe.
Yeah, adapting. And so I don't know, how was it for you? Do you think
I think now I don't feel like I have a different personality in Spanish, in the sense, I guess at first maybe in Spanish I was more, it was like my more like outgoing, because also like the Spanish culture is so like out in the sense they're always out. It's very much like meet out, go out all the time. And so I feel like maybe in Spanish, I don't know if I have like, I wouldn't say I have like a more of an extroverted identity, but maybe just I don't want to say happier either, in the sense
Yes.
like bubbly, a little bit more like a little
Yes.
bit more. Whereas in English, I'm much more like sarcastic and cynical, or maybe in Spanish,
Okay.
like a little bit like positive spin on things. I don't know, because maybe also that was like at my, like when I learned it, like that was like a perfect time of, and so I don't think my personality is different because I'm still very sarcastic in all my languages. But I feel like in Spanish, for example, I'm more creative, in the sense in Spanish, like I maybe just because the language, or in the sense that was, and so I'm more creative. I feel like I can write better in Spanish. Maybe not now because I literally don't write ever in Spanish, but in the sense it's more creative. In Italian, I feel like I'm more like practical, in the sense like I need to say something and I need to say it like this. And so, but then at the same time, since Italian, especially writing, for example, writing my newsletter in Italian, sometimes I'm upset that I can't write it in English, because I feel like there's a lot of things that I would say in English that just don't translate properly, in the sense, because I don't know, I feel like Italian is more like, it's more difficult to do things that I don't even know how to give you an example, but like something that in English, like it's not correct grammatically, but it's fine in a sentence, or it's like a saying, whereas in Italian, it doesn't work, or I don't know how to make it work so where it doesn't just, or maybe I'm just afraid that it's going to sound like a grammar mistake, even if I could say it in Italian. And so there's this kind of like, I feel like I'm trying to make my newsletter sound as much as me in my personality as I am with the kids. Because in a sense, with my students, I speak to them in English, and I am my same sarcastic self that I am with adults. Whether or not they understand me, that's fine. Eventually they'll understand me in the sense. So I feel like, yeah, there's a little bit of kind of, there definitely is some make the like identity things that are different in the sense, but I don't think I have a different personality per se. I would say
completely, yeah. So maybe like different traits. I mean, you can look at it, I guess, from different angles. Because for me, I feel like, I mean, of course, I'm still me, but maybe some of my traits that maybe I had already, I don't know, maybe they just like kind of brought more to the surface.
They're more like whereas in Spanish, I'm more like my happy-go-lucky positive side. In English, I'm sarcastic, but also can be funny. And then in Italian, I feel like it's more like my business, maybe also because like in Italian, it's like my business side. Like I have to deal with clients and do all the things as an adult that I didn't have to do in English ever in that sense. So maybe, yeah, there's kind of like also stages, I feel like, as well.
It comes in ways, right? You can probably, as you said, adapt different situations different. It can be looked at from different perspectives, because for me, the one big thing comes out, I think, even being more brave or even open-minded. When I moved here, because I was a small town in Poland, never been abroad. And then I remember first time I came, I'm like, oh my God, there's different food. I can have Indian food. Oh my God, it's so delicious. People speak different language. There are different religion, like even skin color. Wow, like kind of with, I guess maybe with that curiosity. I need to see everything. I need to go here. I need to go there. I need to read this book. I need to watch this TV show. I mean, I was even watching like Top Gear. on TV at some
Which
point.
is brilliant. They are quite funny.
Yeah, because like really, like anything I can get on. I know Jamie Oliver cooking. As I said, like the obsession. Now I go somewhere, travel, people look at me and you're very confident. I'm like, no, I'm not. I just look at it more as a, I guess, opportunity to use Russian, or even I'm learning Georgian. I will find a way. Oh, okay, now I can use even those 5 words that I learned. I don't care. So maybe it's more of that, like not missing out and explore and be like curious, like finding out about
Yeah,
things. But
especially if you, in the sense, especially if you learn the language, wanting to also learn about the culture, because I don't think that the two can be separate, and I feel like that's a
yes.
lot of the
Mhm.
problem with people learning is that they're separated
Mhm.
at school. Like they try to teach culture, but it's such a like stereotypical, horrible way of teaching culture, and so I feel like
Yes, I remember like from English books that now you're drinking tea or coffee and not, but like the
Yeah.
tea time. You know, when there was, I don't know, somewhere in the book, and then you come and advise, oh, tea time. So in England, people at 5 o'clock, it's 5 sharp, and they go and make tea. They drink tea. That's the tradition. It's like,
Which is, I
then I,
suppose, a stereotype that is actually kind of true, but yeah, in the
but it's
sense,
more like for the dinner, right? The dinner time. I was like, yeah, they definitely every day England stops and they drink tea at 5 o'clock.
the queen, right, has her
Yes, they'd
poor
be like,
queen, rest in peace. But
yes, but no, it's the dinner time. Another word, as you say, the culture. Like, yeah,
no,
you
but
can't
yeah, I think like it's
separate.
definitely, it's,
Mhm.
you can't separate the two, and I feel like wanting to learn more about the culture like makes you come out of your introvert shell a little bit, because you kind of have to like get in, and then once you're in the culture and language, you've kind of like created this, not new self, but you've created this
Mhm.
new version of you in that culture. Because for example, in English I swear a lot. I do love my swear.
Yeah.
In Spanish, I can swear a lot because in Spanish it's accepted. It's fine, in the sense,
Mhm.
even like using like God and horrible phrases, like the
Uh-huh.
Virgin Mary, and like horrible phrases, like, and
Mhm.
it's totally fine. Like it's pretty strong.
Yes,
Like in
accepted.
English, I wouldn't say these things in English because it
Mhm.
sounds really bad.
Very offensive, yeah.
Whereas in Italy, because we have the Pope, you can't use all those expressions in public. And this, yes, you can use them with like friends, but it's so much more vulgar here.
Mhm.
And so I swear, in the sense, I use normal swear words in Italian. But even like my husband's so annoying. He's like, "Ugh, you sound like such a, what is it? Like ghetto trash in English." And I'm like, I'm surrounded by ghetto trash here. Like all of my friends here, except for one, use that language, not like the horrible language, but the
Mhm.
like words.
The
And
mild version of swearing.
yeah, and I'm like, please, like you cannot like make me completely like, I love swearing. You cannot completely like take away my identity and tell me that I can't say it in Italian. I know I can't say it like in X situations, right? I know I'm not
Mhm.
gonna say it around people I don't know, or in the sense, but I feel like, yeah, there is that kind of like, you are you in the accepted culture that in this so, and so yeah, that's like
Uh-huh. Do you think like you swear a little bit less in Italian
no, yeah, I
than you would in
definitely
English?
swear less in Italian because, or I use less variety maybe in Italian because
Ah, okay. So it's a bit, maybe a bit boring in
it's, yeah, it's kind of
Italian.
boring because I can't use all the all the expressions because they're too
Variety of
bad.
Spanish,
They're too
right?
bad in Italian. In Spanish, you have like, I don't even know, more than I could ever want. In English, you have the regular words, right? And then there's combinations of things. But yeah, that's and
No, it's interesting. I mean, with swearing, I'm laughing because when I look back, I think like in Polish, I was swearing, I would. But then when I moved to England, I think actually maybe it was like I use English more. But then now I think if I switch to Polish, if I speak, I don't think I swear as much or barely. To be fair. But when I go to Poland, I think like maybe that's speaking about the personality, or maybe, you know, the culture, like everything we love to queue in England, right? So when I go to Poland and sometimes I'm like, I should be queuing. So I'm like nicely, sometimes even letting people ahead of me and they'd be like, thank you.
and
Like
there's just like a
they
ever like a
even with a
rush around
shock.
you
Yes.
because people
Oh,
don't
there you
queue.
go. I'm not in a rush. You can go. And they're like, what?
Are you
Or,
crazy?
yeah, or even the thing, it's kind of like a in a sense like reverse culture or something that I do. Because even if I go to Poland and I go to the, because we're more like serious and we
Yeah,
don't do that
serious.
small talk, kind of the
Is it true
customer.
that like if you walk around smiling, people think you're crazy? I heard that
Yes,
about Russia. Same in
exactly.
Poland. Exactly. So like you're
Like,
much
what's wrong with her?
exactly,
Like,
like whereas it's the
really?
opposite in English. Like if you don't smile, people think you're angry all the time. Like thank,
Yes,
please, and
yes. So
thank you in this. And so
but it fits like perfectly what you said with the culture that you adapt. So even for me, if I go to Poland and I go to the supermarket and I started to say thank you or even to bus driver, like I said the first time I used it in a supermarket, like hello, or even those small shops. So I would go and be like, hey, hello, how's your day? Thank you, have a good day. And the first one was like,
what's wrong with you?
Oh, yeah, I mean, she's okay. And then it's funny because, my sister, she's a beautician, so she's well known in the area. And we also look alike, similar, yeah. So sometimes people would take me for her and
Oh,
vice
really?
versa.
So that's similar.
Yes.
So they confuse you guys.
But then sometimes she said, oh, my client, she was saying like, wow, your sister, she's so nice. She came to my shop and she said, bye, have a nice day. And I was like, she made my day.
Common courtesy.
I was like, the English way of doing.
That's like so
Like,
polite.
I feel like even like with the language, little things like that, I switch. But even so with the swearing, coming back, I would go and I wouldn't swear in Polish, but then I'm like a bit, okay, I can swear in English, and then I use more. We have the usual one, the F word that everybody knows, but then I'll use some bloody hell or something like that. Like in the shop, I don't know, people are in the bus or on the train, I can't go through, and I'm not just literally talking aloud like bloody hell, like come on, get
In English though.
in English.
Like, yeah, so that does so people don't think that you're like a horrible person for just like being impatient and swearing.
Because if I said like an F word, everybody was like, it's pretty
Strong,
universal. Yeah.
Everybody
So I'm
knows.
just
Everybody knows that in a sense.
but probably then I think look at the image like of myself, like, oh my God, that probably looks so weird, like some person here, like she's Polish and she starts like talking to herself, swearing in English.
Muttering in English. But yeah, you're using your identity that like allows you to do that in the sense. So,
Yeah, so it's more probably like maybe mixing all those languages, culture, everything, and then you kind of apply it to your own
to
native
whatever
language.
situation that you're in.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Because even with Polish, when I speak now, I don't use it very often. But if I text my sister or talk something, she's like, "That's not Polish." Like, what are you saying?
Like mix.
Like the word order, or like I even make up some words which are mix of. I could create a noun which is a bit of English and then some Russian and something, and then she's like, "We do not have that in a dictionary." Like,
exactly. It happens to me too, in the sense like I'm like, is that even a word in English? Like, because it's
yes,
maybe I know it's a word in Spanish and Italian, and often it's also a word in English, but sometimes I'm like, is that even a word? Did I just make that up? Like, thank God I teach kids because I usually I don't have these kind of doubts. But like when I used to teach adults, I was like, what did I just, maybe I just told them something that was incorrect. Like, I don't know. I just had like, maybe I enjoy teaching kids because like my English level is like stopped at 18 and then my English, I'm like immature. So whereas like I grew up in other languages, and so like I'm happier with kids because I feel like I can speak to them better in a sense.
Such a cool point.
I'm the first one, like I would never teach business English because I don't know. Maybe now that I'm like, more in the business world, and so I'm listening to more podcasts and reading more and learning more, but like I don't have that vocabulary in the sense, just because you're a native speaker doesn't mean you know everything in your language. Like I am much more comfortable talking about like business in Italian, much more comfortable talking about, I don't know, work related things in Spanish, maybe because I worked in English but more. And so yeah, maybe I feel like you kind of, and that then influences also your character in those languages, because like I said, in Italian, I feel like I'm more like business. Even though I'm always putting in like emojis and a thanks at the end of my messages, because I'm like, otherwise I'm like, it feels too cold.
Too businessy.
So yeah, and so like that also, I feel like, and as an introvert, like you think more about this stuff. You're like, oh no, I just sent that message. Should I have added like one extra emoji to the end of it,
or a comma or something,
or I'm like, did I add too many emojis to that message? Like, they're gonna think. So I feel like we also think about all of these things so much more than maybe someone who's just like, whatever, I'm just talking and like doing what I have to do, right? I don't really care. And so
but I guess that's helping for us as teacher, but I guess it could be you can apply it to different professions or different situations, that it makes you more aware and more observant, and you can notice like some patterns and even pick up on your students, how they feel today, and then you can adjust the class, like, because you're like really like a laser.
Yeah, in the sense we focus more. And so yeah, in any profession, in the sense, be it, okay, yes, we're teachers, and so yeah, I can pick up very quickly when my students are off. Even my clients, I know when they send me a message and they're like, and I'm like, how do I respond? Do I want to continue the conversation, or do I want to like pretend that nothing's happened? I'm like, well, thanks for your message, bye. In the sense, I can pretend. But I feel like, yeah, in another language, if like I said, as an introvert with our superpowers that we're more observant and better at listening, I feel like that can also help. Yeah. In the sense, if you, for example, if somebody goes to England to work, then they're going to be that much more receptive to whatever client they have in front of them for whatever in the sense, or yeah, like work relationships and that kind of thing. So like,
yeah, but I guess even relationships can make you more, as I say, even if you're like a good listener, then you're probably a good communicator. You will stop and maybe think more about what you said.
Yeah, or just like go over in your head 100 times, like, oh no, I said like one wrong word.
Sometimes you can't do that many.
Like just sit there and like mull on like what you said wrong instead of what you said right.
Yes, exactly. Sometimes it could be definitely not so great because you spot so many things and it's like sometimes I wish I didn't know this, so I didn't notice.
Yeah, and so sometimes it's almost a curse. It's like I wish I didn't care about what people thought about what I said or did or didn't say or didn't do, whereas other people, like, I don't know if it's an extrovert thing to just go and not care. I don't really know if that's a stereotype or not.
I wonder,
but I definitely know that I'm getting better at not caring so much, which, like I said, in a sense, it's age, it's experience, it's also knowing what you need.
There you go.
Not being selfish, but like being like, okay, I need to be alone, or I need to like
observing your energy
quiet.
and like
yes, observing it. That's a good one.
Yeah, definitely. So I remember we were talking, I think last time, because you had a really good because we were talking about obviously one thing, introvert, obviously if you speak in another language, I guess even if you're an extrovert, it's still very stressful. At the first time you have to, or maybe that's just my perspective. I don't know, maybe other people are like, I just go and make a lot of mistakes and I don't care. I don't stress. I don't know. But I guess if for extroverts, I mean, I have students who are scared of speaking and then making mistakes. And then even if you think like you're the introvert, you have to do all the smoked and things like that, which is not true or not the case always. But would you maybe have any advice for you as a teacher, as an introvert, for people maybe who are like, I'm introvert and I have to speak the language, but I don't want to speak the language?
I mean, I guess, my first thing would be like, people are not judging you in the sense. And I feel like we always think that people are judging us, even if we're speaking in our own language. And so never mind in a second or third or whatever. And so, but trust me, in the sense, from being in both the perspectives as one, helping people to learn languages and also learning them myself, like people are not judging you. And if they're judging you, they're ignorant and not worth talking to. So in that sense, like obviously like it's not good advice because it's not going to change how you feel, but in the sense it is, people are not judging you and most people are happy to help you in the sense, try to understand. And so I feel like, especially, well, I guess it depends on the country that you go to. But if you try, even if you just try to say a few words in their language, like they'll try to help you. And then don't take it as like an insult if they then switch to your language if they can speak it, because they feel like they're helping you in the sense. And so at first, like I would get mad. I was like, don't switch to English. Like I can speak to you in Spanish. But then now I'm like, but they were just trying to help and maybe even practice their English to try to help me. And so I feel like we often we go on the defensive of like, oh no, they're judging me. Oh no, they think I can't do it. Oh no, they like aren't going to let me try. Whereas really at most cases, people are very fine to help. Like, what is the point? The point is to communicate, not to be perfect.
Yeah, exactly.
Whereas we in our heads as like try to make everything I think like a lot of introverts are also perfectionists, and so that kind of goes along with, oh, like if I don't say it perfectly, I'm not going to say it. But that's not communication in the sense we are trying to speak. You for yourself, you don't want to make a lot of mistakes, but if you have to get something done, what's the end goal? Like the end goal is not to say everything correctly. The end goal is to get what you need to get done. And so I feel like we forget that sometimes, and then we go into our little like circle of, oh no, I'm not going to say it, and then I never practice, and then what do you expect, right? So if you kind of go into the occasion thinking, what do I need to do? What is the point of this conversation? And then just try in the sense the worst case scenario, the other person won't understand you enough to actually get the thing done, but it's not a life or death situation in the sense.
Worst case scenario, you can always put up your Google.
Exactly. And now, we didn't, in the 2000s, I think, when did I have my first smartphone? In like 2000, 11, 12, I don't know, in this
Yeah.
sense. So now we have smartphones, exactly. And so now it's much easier. Like you can, and if then the person doesn't want to understand you, they're ignorant because
Yeah.
the phone, literally, like you can put anything into a phone and it might not even be perfect, but it can get the idea across. So yeah, I think just like not worry so much and don't hang out with the Americans.
Or any other, because I mean, it's just, I
Or the
remember
Spaniards or the Italians or the Polish, in the sense would
yes, because when
insert American, like change that to whatever your first language is.
Because when I came to England, it was the same. Like a lot of Polish people would hang out, but not even Polish, because I have friends from, Latvia, Russia, and it would be the same. And then I would go to work and, make friends there, and people be like, why your English is so good? You speak Russian. Is your grandma Russian or mom? I'm like, no, I learned at school. But I was like, so how come you so good at it? I'm like, okay, one thing that I can say, like, your languages are kind of easy for me. If you put me like do some, I don't know, calculations or read physics, I'll be crying. So definitely that's easier for me. But then the other thing I was always, yeah, but listen, what I did when I came to England, I wasn't reading Polish books, hanging out with Polish people. I would just literally, but also not closing myself just for British people, because I have friends from Turkey, Macedonia, different places. So I was like, yeah, watch TV, read even silly newspaper that you pick on the tube, like when you go to work, read a few sentences, watch the TV show that you like, maybe watch it in English or any other language. Just surround yourself, and then it will help you.
Yeah, surround, and as an introvert, surround yourself doesn't have to, like you said, it doesn't have to be with people. Surround yourself with language. Put your phone in English, whatever language you're learning.
Yes,
put
exactly.
Change your computer, change your life thing so that you have to then understand what they mean. Watch series that you already have watched but dubbed or not, like with subtitles in English. Listen to music, read kids' books.
Yes,
you don't have to start reading the Divine Comedy by Dante in English or something ridiculous. Pick up a kid's book or comics. Comics are brilliant because you have the visuals, and there's comics for adults. You have to read.
Yes, superheroes and stuff.
Actually, English. If you want to read the English comic, do you know Tintin?
Yes.
Oh my god, my whole childhood was spent reading Tintin and wanting to be him.
You were saying in our first chat that we haven't recorded.
Our unrecorded podcast. That
was, good progress over perfection, right? But you were saying at that time, choose something that actually applies to you, because we have, I think, also the school system and stuff telling us that we should know the whole language, all of it. But it's not true. You can pick up the little bits that you like or you find them useful that will help you.
Yeah,
because
exactly. Especially
me and you, we talk a lot.
So.
Because me and you, we talk a lot about all the exams. It's not the case. You can do so many other things, and it can be fun. And you don't have to. Obviously, exams, yes, if you really need them because you move abroad. I don't know, you need it for visa or something. Definitely, as you said, you can read a comic book.
Exactly. Yeah, you have to find something that, in the sense, obviously, if you don't like reading in your language, then it's going to be difficult. Or maybe in the sense, for example, I didn't like writing in English, but then I found in Spanish I enjoyed writing, in the sense. So you might even realize that you like doing something in a different language just because it's more challenging or more exciting or more interesting
or new
but find, depending, as an adult, we don't have all the time in the world to do all the things anymore.
Exactly.
So they have to choose one hobby that you like doing and try to find a way to do it, even if you can't do it, watch YouTube videos about it in English, or in the sense something that makes, I don't know, you don't have to study grammar. You can play games for kids that are in the sense.
And then the other idea is to speak the language that you have to go to another country, but that's not true.
Exactly. And it's in that situation, when a tourist comes to your country and you have to use your English, you have the advantage because you're helping them. And so even if they don't expect you to speak their language, the fact that you try to speak in English, or that English is the common language between the two of you, the fact that you're trying is just great for them. They're very happy with it. And then you feel better because you helped somebody or tried to help somebody. And so, yeah, in the sense, you're going to learn faster if you're immersed in the situation. But even if that's not possible, because it's not possible for most people, since our situations are a little bit different, I feel than a lot of people, but you can still find all kinds of opportunities to mingle if you want, or you don't even have to. You can have chats online. You can even do, lessons, but you can also just have like chats with the, or in, I don't know, because I guess it depends. There's like I would never go to one of those, like where there's like I guess I don't even know how they're called in any language, but like the like meetings in like a pub where you like go and
meetup kind of
speak,
things,
meetup kind of things. Like that doesn't float my boat because I'm super introverted. But then in the sense online, if you don't want to go out, or just like meeting with one person, like in Rome, when I first moved to Rome, I met a girl it was one of those apps where you could find people to exchange language, and it wasn't lessons, but like she also spoke Spanish, and so we would do some Italian. That was when I was learning Italian, some English because she was learning English, and then we became friends in Spanish. And so like you don't have to be in a group of people, you can find one person to talk to in the sense we were in Rome, so she wanted English and so I wanted Italian, and so you can find that there's websites now that you can like
like the language exchange or kind of something. I don't know what it's called.
I guess every city has their own, and since for example in Rome it was like Friends in Rome, it was in English, but there are, thanks to the internet, there are so many possibilities now to just find one person to hang out with instead of having to go to a pub and in a loud music situation and talk to people in a different language. That never really seemed like a good idea to me.
You can do more safe.
Exactly, you can be safer and like quieter, and like I said, you can even do it online. Or so my dad has learned Italian, well, in the sense, I don't know, like he's pretty much taught himself Italian with some course. He has time to study, and like he listens to podcasts and he reads the newspaper, and every time he can try to, like in England, he runs into people, or in Scotland, he runs into people that speak Italian. And so he tries. He's like, let's have a little chat. He can, he like says some words, or like to me, he'll say a phrase or something. It's possible. Like it depends how much time you have to dedicate to it. But
because obviously the priorities changes and people have families and stuff. So it's not like when we are kids or students that we had one job was like
what you have time for, and be happy with the progress that you've made in the time that you, obviously, like I said, if you do 1 hour a week in English or whatever language you're learning, you're gonna progress slower than someone who does like 10 hours a week. It's just logic. It's like that for anything. And so, but I think people are often very hard on themselves, especially us. Very hard on ourselves for not being better at it, or not progressing faster, or not being perfect, or forgetting the word or whatever. And it's really not important, guys. It's not important.
Exactly, because you can, even if you learn 5 minutes a day, it's still better than 0.
Exactly. And people are like, oh yeah, and then they don't even do that, and it's like, okay, there's a minimum amount of that you have to put into it. Or if you just want to do your lesson, and that's fine, in the sense, like I said, if the lesson is fine for you and you know you don't have more time, then that's fine in the sense. But then don't complain next time you come to my lesson saying, Claire, I don't know all the phrasal verbs. Of course you don't. I don't know all the phrasal verbs. Do you expect yourself to know them, right? So I feel like we need to lower the expectations for ourselves, especially because languages.
And then you had exactly. Then you had the really good advice. I think that also applies to if all the other options don't work, then what we have left.
Then instead of drinking a chamomile tea, you just put a little bit of alcohol in your glass, and out you go, right? No, but I feel like in Spain, it's a cultural thing. In Spain, it's not like you don't drink to get drunk. There's this like misconception. So for me, it was just like, you're out, you have a beer, you have some wine, you have whatever. And I feel like, I think that helped get me over my like initial, I'm scared, because I would try and I would speak probably not even that well, but I was thinking that I was speaking well, and the other person was probably drunk enough to think that they were understanding me. And so you get that
advantage of that.
Exactly. And so you get that kind of push to be like, oh, I can, even if you're actually not saying anything that makes that much sense.
Maybe the drink helps with our perfectionism. You have a drink and the perfectionist is switching off,
you're
and
like,
you're like, I can speak. I'm the superhero of the Italian speech.
No, but definitely like that. I have to say that I owe Spanish also to the beer that I drank in Spain, right? Those first years. Because you lose a little bit of that like inhibition that you might have. And so I'm not saying go out and get wasted, but go out if you want to, it's fine. But in the sense, but that definitely, I think that definitely helps just to relax a little. But I feel like, especially with speaking, because in any kind of like party situation, or even just like gathering dinner out, there's usually going to be some alcohol, and usually people become much friendlier in general, like at a wedding when like nobody knows anybody, it's just the bride and groom have all their random friends and you're just like sitting at the table at a wedding, you're like, I don't know, where's the wine? And it's the same concept with another language. It's like, okay, where is the wine? Now I'll speak to you or try to speak to you, right?
Even not saying the alcohol, but I think like even the gathering, I remember going, even doing tours abroad, and sometimes when you have big groups and then you will sightseeing and then you will sit down for lunch together or something, there's lots of new people and you sit down with the tour guide and with the host and you be like, and then they put the food on the table and then they say help yourself and everybody's like sitting, I'm hungry but I don't want to grab the food. I don't want to be the first and be like, oh, she's so hungry, she wants to eat all of it. So it's, I think even upset if there's no even the alcohol involved, like people are kind of in a situation like this, it can be a bit awkward. So even for me, I'm like, I don't like groups, but when I see situations like this, I'm sitting like, okay, I'm also a bit shy, but then I'm like, I'm just going to go for it. And then I'm like, oh yeah, this is good. And everybody else starts eating. I'm like, okay, my job is done.
Exactly. Yeah, you kind of have to like be that one to take the first step. And yeah,
it's like, guys, let's eat. Otherwise, we'll be sitting here for another hour being hungry, and I'm already hungry.
Looking at each other like, who's gonna take the first one, right? So yeah, in the sense, it's the same, I think, with anything. And the more you do, the more you like put yourself out there, then the easier it gets as well. And
it also shows you, oh, maybe it's not really that scary that how I imagine it will be, and then actually like, gives me the satisfaction, and it's good.
Exactly. It's like, what's the worst that can happen? Honestly, like I said, we have to like, and I'm still telling myself that every day. In Italian, I'm totally fine, but this week with this challenge that I'm running for parents, like I'm in like a constant state of anxiety because I have to speak Italian, which I speak fine. But the fact that I'm speaking to parents and like and I have to, and I don't want to make too many mistakes because I'm supposed to be professional, but then it's stupid because I'm an English teacher. And so it's just like a very much like it doesn't ever completely go away, but you will become comfortable in the situations that you're generally in the sense I'm not generally in front of a group of parents. I'm generally in front of a group of kids. So whether I'm speaking to the kids in English, Italian, or Spanish, it doesn't matter. In the sense, even in English, I wouldn't be comfortable in front of the group of parents. I might be a little bit more comfortable because I know that I'm not going to make any stupid mistakes, but I'm still not comfortable because me personally, I'm not comfortable in front of a group of people that are older than the age of 10. And so I guess, like I said, in that sense as well, like, but with friends, I'm perfectly fine. Like when I go out with my husband's friends, even if I don't know them all, I'm totally fine. But it's not the language, it's the problem. It's just okay, after a while I'm tired. But
yeah, because we like to go out, we like to talk, but then we need a bit more, maybe much more time than other people
to recharge after that. Yeah. So like after like a week, if you're like really busy and then you have to go to lunch on a Sunday, and here lunches are like 5 hours long. And so I'm fine for the first part. But then when people start to get up and move around and talk to all different people, I'm like, can I just sit here and not do anything? But then therein is no longer the language the problem. Whereas before it would have been, because I would have been like, oh no, like I don't even know what to say. Like I don't understand because there's music, it's loud, and I'm like, feel like an idiot. Now that isn't the problem. It's just the fact that I don't like
your energy and
exactly and
it's like how we socialize.
But yeah, but also I don't know if you remember like when you started learning, like I remember like after being out like at a party in Spain or even here in Italy, like after like at the beginning, like if I was in Italian all day or with my husband's family or like with friends, I was so exhausted at the end of the day, like just like mentally drained. And it's the language thing, because being another language,
have to constantly think
when you're always on, because you're always trying to pay attention to what people are saying, and it's so tiring. So one, everyone needs to keep that in mind, that it's exhausting at first, and two, as an introvert, it's like doubly exhausting because you're like, I'm in a group of people. And so like I feel like we have to like give ourselves a break at the same time. Like it's
yes, exactly. I did my practice, then I can have my break, and then I can come back. And as you say, you can do it even little tiny steps and be like, okay, that's still progress.
Exactly. Like I said, if you're not living in the country, then you can choose essentially how much you expose yourself to it. So then we kind of, how much you can manage. And so
and as I said, like we're talking, then the more you know yourself, then you also know your limits, and you'd be like, you don't have to please anybody than yourself, right? And you choose what works for you the best.
Exactly. And like I said, you can take people's advice or not. And then so many people are going to give you so much different advice in the sense. And so as an introvert, you might not be listening to an extrovert teacher's advice to you, because that extrovert teacher might go off and be like, oh, just go to a meetup at a pub. And you're like, that's not a good idea.
That's like my worst case scenario. Like, no, thank you.
And so obviously you kind of have to also find that, like I said, if you're taking lessons, you want to take advice from people with a grain of salt.
Yeah, like I guess with everything, you can listen to everybody's advice, but at the end of the day, you know yourself best. And you know what works for you and what doesn't.
Yeah, and you can try something.
Be like open-minded, and if it doesn't work, then I mean, it's not the end of the day. You can change it, adjust it.
Exactly, in the sense, because the good thing about there's not just one way to learn a language, and so in the sense you don't just have to go out and be at meetups, right? Exactly. You can learn in many other ways and practice in ways that are not scary.
Exactly. So fun to wait. Wow, that was fun. Second time round, but I was
still recording. It's still, I've like been like checking the whole time. Is it recording? Just to like make sure. Oh,
it is. No, it's perfect. Thank you so much. No, amazing.
No, it's been fun chatting about our language nerdiness. I enjoy it.
Exactly.
Can you relate to my guest story? Let me know in the comments. If you liked this episode, don't forget to subscribe and share it with your friends or anyone who might find it helpful on their own journey to embrace their quiet personality. I'm here to help you with English learning, whether you want to connect with others or turn your dreams into reality. If you'd like to leave a review, I'd love to hear your thoughts on the show. It will help me reach more people like us. And don't forget to check out my Instagram at linguistic.adventurer for more tips on learning English, or to ask about my one-to-one classes or group courses. Thanks for listening, and until next time.